Oh, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnibros Live on a Sunday. Anyways, check it out, everybody. Welcome in. It's Sunday. Welcome to Omnibus Church. This is Comic Book Church on Sunday, right here on Omnibros Live, here on YouTube. I'm Gabe. Gabe loves 90s comics. Also joining me today is the one and only... my main man, that's Lou right there, yo.
Lou from Comics Guide 101. How you doing?
All right. Comics Guide 101. Where we just been hanging out lately, dude, and just talking shit. We had our Patreon show last night, which was all kinds of super cool fun, where we just did nothing but talk shit. It was great.
That's kind of one way of putting it. I mean, for those of you, shameless plug here, but for those of you that have not joined in our Patreon shows, which are once a month, you get us unfiltered, which here we clean up a lot because we have to, because it's YouTube and stuff like that. But the Patreon show that we had last night is once a month, and we went for almost 2 hours?
Yeah, it was literally an hour and 55 minutes. We should try and do it more than once a month, but right now with our schedule, it's been once a month.
Yeah, so it was about an hour and 50 minutes, and we had Ian join us last night. So the thing is, with the Patreon show for $5 a month, you join us, and you actually join us in a StreamYard meeting, just like Gabe and I are doing right now. And we just shoot the shit for about an hour, hour and a half, or however long it takes. And we covered a whole bunch of shit. It was really good. That was probably my favorite one that we've done so far, the one that we had last night. It's working out.
Yeah, it was great. We hit all kinds of different topics. We talked about TorpedoCon. We talked about what we think would take to really bring comic books back into, we haven't had like a Watchmen or a Dark Knight Returns or anything that's been like significant or like the best of the best, like any of those kinds of things in probably the last 20 years. It feels like there might be little things here and there, but nothing that's just been like the major big storyline in a long time. So we talked about that. We talked about how great it was when big storylines happened in the actual numbering of the comic, and it wasn't like a renumbered restart of a numbering, or it wasn't like a mini series. We talked about how like Batman Year One took place in the actual line of comics of Batman. Hush was in the line of Batman. It was in the line of comics as well. Frank Miller's Daredevil, Bendis' Daredevil, and how you can't have Brubaker's Daredevil without Bendis' Daredevil, because it was literally them handing off the baton to one another. Stuff like that. So we got into all of that stuff. It was a great talk. So for those of you who don't know, our Patreon is, like Lou said, if you want to be a part of that interaction and that conversation, it's $5 a month. And you get to pop in and hang out with us here. And you get your own little video stream, like how it is here. So it's like the whole like Brady Bunch videos, and we all got to talk and chat, and you can be a part of the conversation. You can hang out with other people. I mean, we've had like 12 plus people on the show sometimes.
Absolutely.
But like with summer and COVID, people have been joining in more and less and bouncing in. They bounce out. It's great because you can come in, you can come out. You don't have to spend all day with us if you don't want to. You can come in for a little bit and hang out. You get to voice your opinion. You get to be a part of the conversation. You can contribute to that night's talk. Or what I'm doing now, what we figured out I could do now, we were supposed to be doing it before, but I didn't think anybody cared. And I realized that people told us they do care, is I can now, with StreamYard, I could download the video file from that conversation and I upload it to the Patreon. So if you weren't able to make it that night and you still wanted to watch, the conversation in the show, I could take the video and it's now uploaded into Patreon, and you can sit there and you can watch it. So those of you who are part of the Patreon who couldn't make it last night, you can sit back and you can watch it. Now, also what I can also figure out that happens with StreamYard is I could not only download the video, but fucking magically, I can download the audio too. So now I also posted up the audio version of the show. So if you want to listen to it, and if you're a podcast person like myself, like honestly, I don't do anything in YouTube outside of this show. Like I don't watch other shows outside of the movie trailers and stuff like that. My YouTube it's dusty. I don't use it for anything. I'm a podcast person. I listen to it in the car. I listen to it in the gym. So if you're that way, You can also listen to the Patreon show audio as an audio podcast. So there's 2 different videos on there. There's 2 different posts on there, one for the video, one for the audio. And that is available to everybody. All right. If you put in $1, $2, $3, $4, whatever, because there's a tip jar, you can throw in whatever you want. You have access to those videos. And if you want to be a part of it, if you're enjoying the conversation and if you have your own opinions to kind of place, because again, this is unfiltered. Like I went on and I talked all kinds of shit about collectors, not shit, but my opinion of how collectors feel about the way comic books are these days, and the variants and the collector covers and all that kind of stuff. We really went pretty deep and hard on it. So if you want to be a part of that and enjoy and contribute to that conversation, it's $5. But if you want to just watch the video, or you want to be kind of just the audio, put in whatever your tip is. It's in the tip jar every month. Throw in $3, $2, $4, whatever, and you can have the audio. So, boom. That is our big old long-winded awesome sales pitch on the Patreon. The link is in the description down below. Check it out.
We appreciate it. Also, we're doing some house cleaning right now before we get into the meat of this. Gabe, tell them about the sponsor real quick of this show.
Yeah, the sponsor of this show is the one and only, our number one spot to get our omnibuses, hardcovers, epic collections, all the collected editions there are. Our number one go-to spot is instocktrades.com. That's right. That is our number one spot. Our first go-to spot when it comes down to anything collected edition wise. You get the best prices anywhere. Best prices. You get the absolute incredible, amazing, top-notch, never to be beat packaging. And that means a lot. The packaging is fantastic. All right. You save that packaging for when you go sell your books, or if you got to move or any of that stuff, save it. Pack it in the garage or whatever you got to do. Save the packaging. It's worth it. And with the packaging, now that we're on the topic of shipping is free in the US on orders of $50 or more. And that's easy to do. That's one omnibus. That's one omnibus. That's a handful of other hardcovers. Whatever you want to do, you make it $50 or more, that shipping is free. And that in itself is a huge value and a huge savings on some of these weeks where you get 3 or 4 awesome omnis that come out, epic collections or whatever. Totally worth it. Awesome customer service, beautiful packaging, best prices. They sponsor the show for the last, what's it been, 25 years, it feels like. And then last Monday, we gave away our $50 in-stock trades gift card. And that's open to everybody all across the world. Doesn't matter where you are. We give it away live on the show on Monday, the very last Monday of the month. That show, we give away a $50 IST gift card. It's open to everybody. So that's all thanks to our wonderful sponsor, instocktrades.com. All right. Now that's how you do it, son.
Hey man, so I don't usually do the Monday show, so I haven't been in touch with you as much as I should be in terms of what you were reading. So hit me with some of the things you've been picking up lately. Reading.
Picking up and reading wise, I just got the Generation X Epic Collection. Nice. So I'm gonna be taking this bad boy with me to work. I'm gonna be reading this on my lunch break. I'm gonna be probably hanging. I definitely want to talk to Curtis from the Epic Marvel podcast show about the Generation X books. I'm gonna be reading this and hopefully be able to get and talk to him. I actually got to send him a package. I found him a book he's been looking for. So I'm sending him a package. So hopefully we get a chance to chit chat about that. But this thing is awesome. I love everything to do with Generation X when it was first coming out. It's probably shit today, and I don't want to find out because I had fond memories of the Generation X TV movie.
There was a movie?
There was a TV movie, and it's probably garbage. I had fond memories of it, probably because back then there was nothing comic book related on TV. You didn't get movies, you didn't get TV shows, you didn't get diddly shit nonsense out of anything comic book related back then. So anything you got, it's like being homeless and not eating for 3 months, and then all of a sudden you go, "Oh, I found a Ritz cracker. This is the greatest thing in the world." That's what it was back then. It's not like today where it's literally you're just eating steak and filet mignon and lobster and shrimp all day long with all these great Disney shows and stuff like that. Back then, you got shit, and you were like, "This is great. I want more of this shit." So this is the kind of stuff we talk about on the Patreon show. This is exactly how the Patreon shows go. It's a little bit more colorful though, but yeah. So I have great stuff with that. I've been picking up more CGC books. I'm funneling my collection down. I've talked about it. All the stuff here behind me, most of it for the most part, I'm selling. Some people have already hit me up, and I've already sold a couple awesome books back here. I sold like my George Perez Avengers Omnis, both of them. I sold my Gotham Central Omnibus. I sold my what else was it? My Sleeper Omnibus. So most of the stuff behind me, I'm just dwindling it down to the best of the best. Like we talked about it a little bit yesterday on the Patreon show, how I feel, what I feel about the omnibus collecting market and how the current trends of today and how it affected the way I see collecting omnis and stuff like that. So I've been drilling that stuff down because I want to get more into some of my stuff scattered around. I've been selling stuff on Whatnot. You can follow me on Whatnot Ninja Comics. Yeah, because ninjas make everything better. So I can buy like CGC books. You know, like I got this recently. This isn't a big CGC book, but it's Wolverine 75. This is the issue right after Wolverine gets his adamantium ripped out of him, and this is the first appearance of the Bone Claws. So
that cover. I know that cover. That cover is iconic, dude. Holy shit. I remember that as a kid going, "Oh my God, they're ripping off the adamantium out of him."
Yep, and then X-Men 25, which is the part right before this, where he actually gets the adamantium ripped out. I have a 9/8 of that too, and these were like the 1-2 punch knockouts of 90s X-Men books. I hold fond memories of these. So I got that one, and I got this one. So I kind of got a matching pair. Well, it's not quite matching because my X-Men 25 is autographed, so it's a yellow label autograph by Andy Kubert. But yeah, so it's been stuff like that, you know. I've been buying some more like single issue fun stuff. I'm kind of getting more back into like single issues and keys. Like I'm gonna sell small stuff, turn it into bigger books, turning that into like key books, and then turn those into grails, and then turn the grails into like gems. So I'm kind of in that kind of process and stuff like that. Like all the skills and knowledge I know and experience I know selling comics all these years with Torpedo and other comic book shops and things like that for forever. It's time for me to take advantage of that. So that's been my idea. That's why I'm selling stuff on Whatnot, because you know that's fun and that's exciting. And I like to turn the little stuff into bigger stuff, into larger stuff, into incredible stuff. So that's kind of been my game plan and my lookout.
Just to go back to that Wolverine issue, because I haven't read that since I was, probably 7-8 years old. Who was the author and artist on that? Was that Lee?
No, no, it is. This is way after Claremont left. It's Larry Hama and Adam Kubert.
Oh, okay.
On the Wolverine, on the Wolverine 75. X-Men 25, the other one, that is Fabian Nicieza and Andy Kubert. So,
okay. All right. Yeah, and that was a whole big thing back then, man. It was, and then Wolverine had the bone claws.
Yeah.
For a while after
Forever,
that.
dude. It was great.
Wasn't he depowered? He was depowered after that, right? Like his healing factor didn't work.
His healing factor got all messed up because of having so much trauma done to his body. And then in Wolverine 100, which I have around here somewhere or something like that, Wolverine 100 is Cable's son named Genesis was trying to rebond the adamantium to Wolverine in another kind of like Weapon X style attempt to control him and mentally brainwash him and stuff like that. And that didn't work. Wolverine's body rejected that adamantium, and it shot it all out of his body and all that stuff, right? And then that's when he lost his nose, and he got really super feral, and it got really cool and crazy back then. Everybody hates it, and you're wrong, because that stuff was awesome.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, man.
I love that stuff. No nose with the bandana. He's fighting ninjas, and Elektra helps him out, and Stick helps him out, kind of regain his kind of humanity back and stuff like that. It's a slow process, but it was great. It was like, and that's the thing that we kind of talked about a little bit yesterday, about what makes comics interesting is not what's been going on lately. of kind of rehashing the same idea, and everything's kind of safe, and you get done with the storyline where you kind of mess around with the characters a little bit, and you got to go put the toys back in the toy box exactly the way you found them. All right. Back then, and what made comic books interesting back then, and what I loved about it, and they do it every so often now, and when they do it now, is actually when comic books are interesting again, when stories are major and they have some kind of relevance to it and danger to it, is when they break the toys. Okay, so them breaking Wolverine like that, which is kind of against the idea and the continuity of Wolverine's history, because we've seen it before, and they talked about it where the bones where the claws were implanted, and he had like pistons in his arms that shot him out and all that stuff. But whatever, break that shit, change it up, rip the adamantium out of him, turn him into like a crazy feral monster for a while where he can barely talk and he just uses his senses to sniff around and speak. But that's what made things fun and interesting, So that was one of those things that again added something to the ladder, added another rung to the ladder, another spoke to the wheel of Wolverine, and they haven't done anything to him since then. They haven't done anything interesting to kind of change or reformat or make the character interesting again.
That's actually a good question. What do you think is probably the Wolverine specifically? What do you think is probably the biggest thing that they've done with that character since then? Maybe Old Man Logan is probably the biggest thing that they did since then. With
probably Old Man Logan again. That's breaking the character. You're making him old and kind of depowered and a little decrepit and stuff like that. Yeah. The death of Wolverine. Bullshit.
That was terrible. Yeah, that wasn't good.
Yeah, that's just gum on the bottom of your shoe, and you're just trying to scrape it off on the sidewalk on the curb.
That's horrible.
And again, that's what I'm talking about. There hasn't been anything interesting or like long-lasting that's happened to any character in a long, long, long time. I think Old Man Logan is probably the better thing they've ever done, and that was still like 12 years ago. I want to say maybe longer.
I think you're pretty spot on. I think that 13 years ago. Because I remember Old Man Logan when it was first coming out in singles, and it kept getting delayed because of Steve McNiven. I love McNiven's work. Admittingly, though, he is not the fastest artist. You're gonna get stuff that gets delayed. Remember Civil War? How many times did Civil War get delayed?
All the time.
So I think there were rumors of health complications as well with him at that point. But back on Civil War, it's really interesting because nobody remembers all the delays and all the complaints and all the shit that people gave them for Civil War. It's remembered, I would argue, fondly in the public zeitgeist of our hobby. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Civil War was fucking awesome," when it was happening at the time.
Yeah, it's same with anything. Dark Knight Returns was delayed. Those last couple of issues took 6-7 months to come out. Watchmen was delayed. Those last couple of issues took a while to come out too. And so nobody remembers that. All you remember is the final product, and that's fine, and that's great, and that's why when people complain about delays and stuff like that, it really isn't relevant. I talked about it a little bit yesterday too. Spawn being late. Spawn skipped issues. It was so late. It just said fuck it and skipped a couple of issues, and then they had to go back and do it later. So that happens. So NFL dude, the mental shift Aaron did was interesting. But that isn't a highlight because it's no longer an arc. Yeah, the whole Weapon X storyline was really cool. But again, he got done with it, and you just kind of put your toys right back in the box. Again, Aaron did that with Thor. He broke Thor. He made him unworthy and brought in Jane Foster, and it was a huge, just complication for fans. People either hated it or you loved it. They made Thor a woman. Oh my god, all this stuff, right? And it was amazing. It was the last really great thing they did with Thor, with that and making him King Thor, and he lost an arm. Things like that is what it's going to take to make comic books interesting again. You got to break the toys. You got to break them and rebuild it.
It's always interesting to kind of see how trends change and how public opinion changes on certain writers and stuff like that. Because for a while, Aaron was the it guy. He had Scout going on. He had Wolverine. He had Southern bastards for a while going on there with Latour. Aaron was the it guy. Then all of a sudden you had Scott Snyder, who was the it guy. And he came out and he was doing Batman. He was doing The Wake and all these other different really interesting and crazy books. And, you know, Hickman had his turn. Bendis had his turn. Brubaker had his turn. In some ways, it never left for Brubaker. And right now it seems like the guy who's riding that crest is definitely Donny Cates. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen and who's going to take up that next wave of like, yo, this guy came out of nowhere and he was badass. I personally think out of nowhere, no, but I think Tom Taylor has really been cutting his teeth the last few years, man. And he's been putting out some really underappreciated gems. Yeah. Tom Taylor is fucking talented as hell.
Yeah, he's been killing it. James Tinian, he's been getting really popular. His stuff is really blowing up. Like his, you know, Something That's Killing Children and Slaughterhouse and his run on Detective.
Yep.
I mean, he's the current big it, you know, kind of guy, and that's interesting and it's good to see. Donny Cates, like you said, Al Ewing on Immortal Hulk, and now they're switching roles where Al Ewing is taking over Al Ewing is taking over Venom with Dylan being Venom. And Donny Cates and Ryan Otley are going to do the Hulk. I am all in for that, dude. I'm gonna, you know, I'm like I said, I've been getting singles a little bit, but not so much ongoing stuff besides Spawn. But I'm going in on that Hulk run by Donny Cates and Ryan Otley, because Ryan Otley is the best artist right now when it comes down to like destruction and mayhem and chaos and havoc. And that's what you need for the Hulk. That's what Hulk should be. That's my idea of Hulk, is him just destroying shit, you know, and causing ruckus and beating up the army and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we talked. You know, here's a tip: if you are thinking about walking into your shop that day and picking up that issue of Hulk, don't do it. Just pre-order it, because that's going to be a big hit. That's going to be a big book. I would advise you order it ahead of time, because it's probably going to be a hot book for a bit. It doesn't mean it's going to be in like the hundreds and resale market or anything like that. But I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that that's going to be a book that's going to sell out pretty quick.
Yeah. I think it comes out in November. I'm trying to see if I can find the actual date for it. But I think November is the start for that new Hulk. And I'm all in, dude. I'm all in. I'll pick up a couple variants just for fun. But yeah, I'm really excited for Hulk #1 to come out with Donny Cates and all them.
Yeah. I remember when Cates was teasing it for a while, and people were trying to guess what was he going to write after Venom, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's got to be Avengers." Cates has to do an Avengers run, and I still think he'll get that chance to shine doing his Avengers run at some point. But him switching with Al Ewing and taking over the Hulk after Immortal Hulk is ending, which Immortal Hulk is fucking awesome. I'm all caught up on that right now. Is really interesting, and I can't wait to see if we're going to see that really shift in tone, because I love Otley. I think of Otley. I think pure action. That's more of Otley's speed for me. And shifting over Al Ewing into Venom, and he's taking his artist with him into Venom. That's a horror book. That's going to be, chances are it's going to be a really strict horror book, and I can't wait.
Yeah, dude. And for him to do that with Venom, I'm waiting to see what happens with that too. So I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm trying to figure out the date. I can't find it right now. I don't know. Sorry, but apparently, Free Comic Book Day, there's an Avengers Hulk book, and that's going to be the first storyline or the first piece of the Donny Cates Ryan Otley stuff. So everybody, make sure you get that Free Comic Book Day issue.
That means I'm going to have to actually go into a comic book store.
Yeah. Just go in, grab it, and bail out. Chip Zdarsky on Daredevil. I haven't read any of it yet, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about it.
I have. I'm all caught up. It's great.
Yeah, is it great?
Fantastic. Yeah, it's the best Daredevil's been since Wade. He isn't. It's not as good as Bendis. It's not as good as Brubaker, and I don't think it's as good as Wade, but he's not trying to be those guys. He's carving his own path for the character, and he's doing some really interesting stuff on that book. It's really good. Plus, he's got Elektra.
Yeah, that stuff. Elektra taking over as Daredevil for a little bit, but I mean, that's kind of been done before. That's again, they're kind of just rehashing the things where Daredevil's in jail. No, not this Wednesday Collector. Free Comic Book Day is the 14th of August, so it's like in 2 weeks. And they're usually on. It should be a Saturday. Most free comic book days are Saturday. Yeah, NFL dudes got Saturday the 14th. So check it out. Go for it. I'm gonna pop in and get a copy for sure because I just want to see Ryan Otley do Hulk just smashing stuff up.
He's a perfect guy to do it.
Perfect guy to do it.
Okay, we got Berserk Deluxe restock is happening.
No idea. Stuff like that, restock, we have no way of knowing that stuff. I wish we did. It'd be great if they let people know ahead of time. It just kind of happens.
Question. He might have more information on that.
Yeah. But hey dude, have you watched the new Masters of the Universe on Netflix?
I did. Yeah, I talked about it briefly last week. What did you think?
I'm a few episodes in. I like it. I like it. I can see why the 40-year-old man babies are upset by it. I can understand that, but it's better than the original 80s cartoon. That 80s cartoon of He-Man, I don't care what anybody says. That thing is just stupid. It is dumb. It's dumb.
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
I watched it recently because at Torpedo we didn't play music or anything like that. We just played like movies and TV shows, and we threw on He-Man one day, and I was like, "This is awful! Like, it's awful. It's just a He-Man running around with a bunch of gnomes and just nonsense stuff happening, and then eventually there might be a fight with Skeletor. It's what there was a He-Man series that happened in like early 2000s. I think it might be 2000, 2001. And that's awesome. Like it's what He-Man, it's what us kids from the 80s remember, because you just remember the cool stuff that happened because you were a kid and you were just more attached to the big sparks and the fire and the excitement and the energy. But that was like 30 seconds of the show. The rest of it was just garbage, nonsense, patty cake stuff. But the 2000 show was all action, fun stuff. And then this Kevin Smith one is an interesting look at characters. It's a different take. It sidesteps from the story as we remember it. But I'm liking it. I'm like I said, I'm probably like 2 or 3 episodes in. It's only 5 episodes, and they're gonna put out another 5 later. But it's fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
I can see why people are upset by it. But that's their problem.
Well, they end the first episode in a way that you're like, wait a minute, where's He-Man? And then they proceed for the next 4 or 5 episodes like, he's in it, but this really isn't much a He-Man show per se. I mean, and that's kind of the reason why they call it the Masters of the Universe. I will give Kevin Smith credit because he must have known when he was doing this, I'm gonna catch so much fucking hate from idiots online over a cartoon show. I get why people, but like, go back and 80s cartoon and tell me it's a good cartoon. It's not. It's not a good cartoon. The toys were badass. The toys were fucking awesome.
Yeah. Like the toys and the art on the toys is what you're like, oh wow, is this really what the show's about? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very kiddie and childish. And like with the G.I. Joes, at the end of every episode, it's a little PSA about, we learned today about why lying is bad. And there's all that kind of stuff. So
I was talking to Jess about this last week. You know the reason why they had to throw in those little PSAs, right? At the end of
because there was a governmental some government legacy that said that every child show had to have some kind of like lesson learned kind of thing, and that's why the G.I. Joe had all the PSAs, and He-Man had that little kind of PSA at the end of things. Yeah, it was because every show had to have some kind of educational like moment to it. Yeah, so they tacked on that stupid thing at the very end, and really it made no sense. It didn't tie into the episode, but they had to do it. Yeah.
And I always find it kind of funny because when you look at those cartoons, the 80s and the 70s stuff, we had cartoons of stuff that should not have had cartoons. There was a RoboCop cartoon.
There was a Rambo cartoon.
There was a Rambo. There was a Rambo cartoon. Oh my god! I remember having a Rambo action figure. Like I had an action figure of a wounded PTSD Vietnam veteran.
Yeah, I had that, and I had a RoboCop action figures who was a murdered, slaughtered cop. You know, and you could put little caps in them, and he would spark up in the front. You know, and you can have those toys are awesome. I remember them being great. But yeah, those were not the best ideas for kids' toys. But it was the 80s, and you could still have toy guns and all that kind of stuff was fine.
Did you? So as a kid, did you watch wrestling as a kid? Right, like most kids our age, like WWF and stuff like that back in the day. Mm-hmm. Did you have the arena set where you had the WWF arena set and you had the Hulk Hogan action figures, the Macho Man action figures? I love that. I used to play all the time.
I even had the pillow pals, I think they were called, where it was like a pillow version of Ultimate Warrior, and it was made for you to kind of jump up off your bed and elbow drop it on the floor. You know,
I remember that. In hindsight, Ultimate Warrior being a dick, probably should have done that a few more times.
Yeah, you realize dude, you go back and look at some of those like those shoot videos they used to do, and they were dropping the N-bomb, and really it was really like today days is completely off standard.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I still watch wrestling today. I don't like a lot of the product that's being put out today, but there's still a few bright spots. But for me, it's just that golden age for me, and maybe it's just because I grew up with it. But the Attitude Era, where you had Stone Cold, The Rock,
Mankind,
Triple H, and D-Generation. Yes,
Mankind and Undertaker Hell in a Cell match will never be topped.
No, I still remember losing my shit as a kid when Mankind got chokeslammed off the cell onto an announcement table. Yeah. Like, oh my god, he's dead. Yeah. Like Undertaker just killed Mankind.
Yeah, and his tooth, he knocked the tooth out, and it came out of his nose, and he was covered in thumbtacks. Yeah.
Oh my god, man! I remember that. Holy shit!
ECW. They would do table matches, and the tables were on fire. Like.
Yep. I remember ECW.
And then I understand these days you can't do things like that anymore. Like taking chairs to the head, because they really that those concussions cause like some really severe mental conditions in people, and Chris Benoit and stuff like that kind of happened. But that's what you were there for. That's what you were there for at the time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember that. AEW is a lot more of the extreme style of stuff right now. I know that they're going to get CM Punk and Daniel Bryan in a few months, so I'm super excited about that. See what they do there. AEW is really not my speed, man. It really doesn't vibe with me, some of the decisions that they're making and some of the spots they're doing and stuff like that. But I'm all about going back and watching the classic 80s wrestling stuff. Like Dusty Rhodes was the man. He was a big dude and he could fucking move. Yeah. And it was you just can't beat it. Ric Flair in his prime is incredible. Like Ric Flair in his prime, if you go back and watch those old videos, amazing stuff.
Yeah. I loved Razor Ramon. He was one of my favorite wrestlers at the time. All that stuff. Diesel, like that stuff was great.
Yeah. Razor Ramon's the reason we got Sting. You know that?
Razor Ramon's the reason for what?
That we got Sting back in WCW.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's the one that came to Sting, and he gave him a gimmick. He's like, why don't you come Crow? And then, sure enough, that's where the inception of the character came from.
Yeah, I remember when Sting first showed up, and he was just he was more colorful, and he had like a blonde flat top and stuff like that. And then like one day he just turned into the Crow.
Yeah, he's coming down from the rafters, and he's got the baseball bat and everything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, God, you're taking me back.
Yeah, man, that was all fun.
Did you ever get in trouble for doing the D-Generation X? Did you ever get in trouble for doing the DX, like the thing from DX as a kid?
Yeah, yeah. I used to always go around chopping people like that. You know. I still do it sometimes. I'm not mature. I still go around at work and I'll just DX chop people. You know.
I actually got I got in trouble. I got suspended for school for a few days as a kid in elementary school because I did the Razor's Edge. I did Razor remote finishing move to a kid on the playground. And I fucked that kid up so bad.
Dude, I used to get in trouble at school for wearing a Bart Simpson shirt because they were really against the Simpsons at the time. You know.
Yeah, man. Oh my God. Oh, nostalgia, dude. Nostalgia. So to what we've been reading, I just finished Batman Earth with Jeff Johns and Gary Frank.
Oh, okay.
The artist, Gary Frank. Not bad. Actually, really, really good. I'm enjoying these Earth 1 books. The only slight I have against it is, what character am I tired of seeing in every damn Batman book at this point, Gabe?
Batman?
Well,
no, I'm kidding. Joker.
It's Joker.
Yeah.
Like, you get through the whole story, and it's like, wow, this was actually really good. I had to shoehorn the fucking Joker in the final page because apparently you can't do a Batman book these days without involving the Joker in some way, shape, or form. And I was just like, come on. And it's also that 1-2 punch of Jeff Johns just got done doing 3 Jokers last year, and that was so here,
talk about strip mining the Joker. They fucking made 3 of them come up.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's just I'm tired of seeing the Joker.
Yeah,
I'm with Jeff on this one. I could go a whole year.
I could go longer than that. Like, I think we talked about it before. Again, this is all going to come back to breaking the toys. I think we talked about the last time the Joker was interesting is when they cut his face off.
Yeah.
And like, that's all. That's really all it takes. Is something really cool and interesting like that. But nobody wants to destroy or break or reconfigure their billion-dollar, character. And he's in every Batman movie, and he's in every Suicide Squad movie, and there's a different rendition of him, and they keep trying to make him interesting. Okay, Heath Ledger's Joker. Nice change of events and stuff like that, but it's still the Joker. There's still not much different than any other Joker. They gave him the scars, but it's still the normal, everyday kind of laughing Joker. They need to stop using the Joker. There's Batman. People say Batman has the best rogues gallery, but that's bullshit because all they use is the Joker. Let's see some Clayface. Let's see some interesting Two-Face stuff. Let's see these other characters get used. You can't say he has the best rogues gallery if you only get the same 2 or 3 characters year in, year out, and echoes of them. You get Harley Quinn. Now you got Punchline, and now you got all these other kind of things. So let's get some more things in there. I know James Tynion has been doing stuff with a guy called The Maker, and there's little things like that coming along. Arkham Knight, they put Arkham Knight from the video games into the comics, and let's just use some more of that. Let's just see some new interesting takes on some of these other characters. They were just sitting there stagnant, asking to be reused. Kite Man was cool. Tom King gave Kite Man an interesting storyline. And then, Bane, I think, is one of Batman's best characters, and he just got used, and that's great. And they keep going back to him, but always going back to him, breaking back or snapping, Alfred's neck or any of that kind of stuff. Let's see some of these smaller characters come around. Let's see Egghead. Let's see the Timekeeper or the Calendar Man, or there's other characters out there. Let's kind of get some ideas. They haven't been used well since like somebody's talking about Long Halloween or Dark Victory. Those are the last time that you saw interesting takes on all these characters.
Yeah. No, I'm dying for a good Scarecrow story. Why have we not had a Scarecrow is right for a great horror story, and we don't see it. Why? Because every time you get on, they have to do a Joker story. I don't know if it's a company mandate where it's like, okay, You do 10 issues of whatever the fuck you want. You're putting Joker in there somewhere in your run.
Yeah, it's the Joker sells. Okay, it's just one of those things where the Joker sells. It's just like having, Batman on underwear, his little sell, or Spider-Man. It's always going to sell, and that's not even really the case because sure, you had 3 Jokers and it sold a little bit, but it was not a good storyline. Or you keep having the Joker pop up in the Joker War of Riddles and all that kind of stuff, and it's over. We need more characters. It's like, they don't use Green Goblin every other episode of Spider-Man or every other issue of Spider-Man. Yeah. They've been using other characters and giving them different stories and stuff like that to play around with.
And that was one of the cool things that I loved about when the New 52 first kicked off. It was actually a company mandate where we are not using any of the classic villains for the first arc of whatever book that you're writing. I think that's what the deal was. You have to come up with a new villain, and we'll go from there. And that's how we got stuff like the Court of Owls, that is very popular today and is actually a pretty cool villain. I know you weren't crazy about the rest of that, the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman run. I personally love almost all of it until about the very end. But the Court of Owls stuff is really the highlight for a lot of people of that run, and it's great.
Yeah. That's the best stuff of that series is those first 25 issues or so. Was the Court of Owls, City of Owls, and then Death of the Family. And then after all that, it was kind of wishy-washy, and things happened, things didn't happen, and then Mr. Bloom, you're like, oh, that's really cool. Never mind. But that's another character that they could there's room to grow these characters in. I mean, there's just so many characters and villains, but they just keep going to the same major ones. So let's use these smaller ranked characters again.
Yeah. Did you talking about the Joker, did you like Death of the Family?
I liked it. I liked it for what it was. I mean, it was it was a long drawn out storyline that bounced across 25 different issues or something crazy like that. And not much really happened. There wasn't, it's called Death of the Family, and there was no death. There was a little bit, I understand the idea. It was Joker was there to kind of break up the family dynamic of the Batman family, cast of characters. And he might have did that for 35 seconds, and then everything was back to normal. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was in concept. If it was an indie book, that would have worked. But the fact that it's Batman, automatically, okay, he broke up the family psychologically. They don't trust Bruce anymore after this run. He messed with their head. Won't even acknowledge it, and they'll be but which is really sad because I bought into the hype. I was reading Death of the Family going, holy shit, this is really great. And then you get to that penultimate issue where they lift up all the little silverware bins or whatever. So the penultimate issue is spoilers for a 10-year-old comic at this point. So the penultimate issue is you've got Joker has kidnapped all of the Batman family. He has told Batman, you got to come here. I've set up a dinner table for you. They're all sitting down. Their faces covered with masks. And he pulls up the dinnerware, the little dish, and you see their faces on the dish, and you're like, "Oh shit! Did he actually cut off every single one of their faces?" And then the next issue was like, "Nope," kind of try to pull the rug from under you. I was like, "Ah, damn!" I was kind of hoping you'd shake things up a little bit with that.
And yeah, I mean that was fine and all. And after that, it was just more setup and no payoff. And Scott Snyder kind of, I think he's grown since a writer since then, but he had his end game or his end game was never the best. I mean, there was a lot of good setup, but then it kind of just landed on kind of a fault. But
that was a common complaint for Scott Snyder back in the day, where he was great at setting up. The first 2/3 is great, but he just couldn't quite stick the landing for a lot of fans necessarily.
And I got to agree with Psycho Sib. Greg Capullo's art on that, amazing all the way through. I think he did every single issue. I think he might have skipped one or two, but for somebody like, for anybody to do a 52 issue run, I think he did 50 of those issues, is unheard of today. Unheard of. And he's a monster. And I was so glad when they hired him onto Batman, because that made him a household name. I mean, yes, he was great on Spawn, but literally Spawn sells nothing. And he made it to Batman, where it was one of the biggest hyped books of all time. So good for Greg Capullo.
Yeah.
I'm super happy for that guy.
Do you remember when it first got out that Greg Capullo was going to be doing Batman? The vitriol that some people had online towards Greg Capullo, like, oh, the Spawn knockoff guy? He's going to be doing Batman? What the hell? And you start getting through those Court of Owls issues, and you're going, holy shit, Greg Capullo is drawing his ass off on these books.
Well,
and he gets better.
Him and Scott hated each other at first. They really had a really bitter relationship at first, where they were like, okay, one of us has got to leave, or this is going to turn into a bad situation. And I don't know what happened, but eventually they stuck with it, and they came together, and now they're like BFFs. So,
hey, we've got a good question from Mark76 at 12:53. If you want to highlight it, Gabe.
What are some good books to read when you're sad or depressed?
That's a good question.
Let me take a look around. Well, let's see. I would have to kind of, I don't have any of my indie stuff here, but I think more indie stuff will probably be more like that. Some fun, interesting books. Mouse, that's a bad idea, Cycle Sid.
That's a terrible idea.
You know what? Ninja Turtles. The current IDW Ninja Turtles is a fun, interesting romp that will take your mind off of things. And I think that's something that you need if you feel a little sad or depressed. You just need something to kind of take your mind off and get out of reality for a little bit. And I think you can really fall deep into the Ninja Turtles. That's
a good choice. I am going to go with a bit more obscure and go next wave. It's a funny ass book, dude. I love Next Wave. It's Warren Ellis unleashed in the Marvel universe with D-list characters that nobody's ever heard of, and he just gets to just have fun, and it's hilarious. Next Wave is a lot of fun. The Goon, like somebody mentioned in the chat, the Goon is a lot of fun. I personally like to laugh a little bit more when I'm feeling that way. What was that Thor book that we've talked about a length here? Chris Samney, Thor, the Mighty Avenger?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great one, too.
Yeah. If you're looking for a great self-contained Thor book, Thor, the Mighty Avenger is chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so much fun.
It ends too early, though. I think it ends like not like a cliffhanger, but I think it's like, all right, they just had to end it, and that was too bad because it got relegated. They got the stigma of being a kid's book, but it was an all ages book, which is just as bad as calling it a kid's book. Chew's another great one that's fun and interesting, and a different concept of ideas. Whoa, that dog is excited.
My bad. Somebody's
it's all good, dude. It's all good. The dog is telling us what books he wants to read when he's sad or depressed. So he's probably talking about We Three. No, that's a bad idea. Carl Bark stuff. That's a good idea, Lars. I'm trying to think of some stuff around here. You know what? Jump into some manga. I don't talk a lot about manga because I'm not an expert, so I don't try to really speak it up too much because I really can't back it up or give recommendations based on like, oh, if you like this manga, you'll like this manga because I'm just not that deep into it. But if you're looking for something fun and wholesome, One Piece. One Piece is really cool, really fun, wholesome with some action and some cool concepts behind it. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think of some good books, but I keep thinking of books that ends up being, no, that's a little too depressing. Like I almost said Craven last time, but that's probably no bueno. That's not a good idea.
The Walking Dead. How about that? Let's go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, not Mr. Miracle. Don't stay away from that. Fun superhero. Again, it really just depends on what you like and what characters you're into. But like Jeff Johns' Green Lantern is a really just fun, interesting story too. Hey, maybe leaning into something sad and depressing would be helpful too. Maybe just seeing it from a different angle. Maybe something along the lines of Joe the Barbarian, which is about a young teenager who is diabetic, and he forgets to take his insulin medication, and he starts going into this really trippy diabetic shock kind of dreamscape. And it's a really good story about survival and making it through a struggle and having that struggle turn you into a stronger person. So maybe that might be something you need that's just a little bit more motivational.
I'm glad you brought up Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, man, because that book is so interesting. I'm kind of actually going back and rereading some of the stuff. I just finished Rebirth, and I'm going back and now going through it. And I'm going to choose my words carefully here. What a fall from grace Ethan Van Sciver. He was on fire.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite. I'll just say it. He's one of my favorite artists. I like his work. Yeah. His personal views are different than mine. It's different than mine, but that's not why I like Ethan Van Sciver. I don't read comic books. I don't follow creators because our viewpoints align. It's not what I'm there for. I don't follow people personally. I don't care about their personal things that happen to them or their point of views or whatever disgusting things they might actually feel. I'm there for the artwork, and his artwork from new X-Men all the way through to like Green Lantern and what was the zombie Green Lantern storyline? What is it called? Blackest Night. All that stuff. Yep. Fantastic, top-notch stuff.
Yeah, I can't take that away from the man because the art is what it is. And that Green Lantern Rebirth, when that was coming out, and his Green Lantern run was coming out, when he was working with Jeff Johns, that was fire. Everybody was picking that up. The heat that book had, I don't think I have seen it since, because everybody at that point in time was wearing. Do you remember how many people were wearing the Green Lantern shirts, the different core shirts, and like you just don't see it anymore. It's ridiculous, dude.
There was people who don't even read comic books at the time that I knew who were wearing like a Rage Red Lantern shirt or a Velvet Lantern shirt. They all it became a part of the pulp culture zeitgeist for a little bit.
It's pretty crazy. Kind of going back to adding wheels to the spoke and what we talked about at the beginning of the show, what Jeff Johns did, because it's such a in-your-face, right there idea. You can't believe nobody else really tried it before. Where it's like, no, there's not just the Green Lantern and the Yellow Lantern. There's the Orange Lantern. There's the Red Lanterns. There's the different spectrum of colors, and all these different things represent what. And eventually we get introduced to the Blue Lanterns, which is my favorite group because they're just basically space hippies. They don't want to get involved in anything with what's going on. And Jeff Johns at that he was on all cylinders. He had the Flash, JSA. He was doing that Green Lantern book that was really great, and all the cool stuff that he did. One of my favorite moments is, I believe it was from Blackest Night, where it's Wally West and he gets deputized by the Green Lanterns and he becomes a Lantern himself, because all the Lanterns suddenly realize, oh, we can give our power over to somebody else and we could turn this fight around. And there are so many fucking great moments. The moment where Sinestro is sitting in his prison cell and the Green Lanterns are like, we beat him, we won. And Sinestro is just smiling like, no, you didn't beat me. You didn't beat me. You had to break your one rule of not using lethal force with your rings in order to win the war. Otherwise, you would have been slaughtered. And it's such a great moment, man. I can't wait to go through that whole thing again.
I would love to read that stuff again, dude. I was reading it in singles when it came out, and that was such a long time ago. But what an awesome time! Again, that was a time where that was what everybody was talking about. Everybody was talking about Green Lantern at the time, and it took a while. Like when Green Lantern first came out, like Rebirth was really great. That was the whole idea. That was still Hal Jordan as Spectre, and the whole idea between Emerald Twilight was that he was possessed by the Palex demon, and that what made him go crazy and nuts. And Jeff Johns, kind of, Jeff Johns it, where he created that whole idea and of all the different entities and stuff like that. And it just went on, and then you got like the Red Lanterns, and then you got all that crazy stuff that started happening. And then Blackest Night came out, and it was a phenomenon.
Yeah. Undoubtedly, the highlight of that series is Blackest Night, and then you hit Brightest Day, and it's like, this isn't that good. It's not that good, man.
Nope. What was it? What's that meme? We goes, oh, you had me at the first half, but the second half you lost me. It was just like that. Blackest Night is a masterpiece, and Brightest Day, which is a follow-up for it, was not what I was expecting, and it couldn't hold a torch to Blackest Night.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Jeff Johns. It wasn't just the main core Green Lantern book that was great. There was also the Green Lantern core books that if you weren't reading that, they were just as good, if better, than what Jeff Johns was doing. I forgot who was the main writer on that, but you would get
that was Peter Tomasi, wasn't it? Was it Tomasi?
I would say you don't get the full scope of the story unless you read Green Lantern Core with Green Lantern in that order. At least you need to do that because it's so good too.
Yeah, it's all a part of it.
Yeah.
And Hooniverse reviews, I agree. Brightest Day was only highlighted by Generation Lost. Generation Lost was a really cool follow-up by Judd Winnick. And, I enjoyed all that stuff too. But Brightest Day is just a big skip for me. I'll tell you that. You can just skip Brightest Day. Nothing much really comes out of it. You get the whole White Lantern thing, and then that doesn't really stick around for long. And that was Kyle Rayner for a little bit, and that doesn't stick around for long either. But yeah, Blackest Night, that's pinnacle stuff. That's probably one of the last big epic perennial storylines that we've gotten in the comics that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, I would say if you want to get into reading Green Lantern, you want to get into specifically Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, read the Jeff Johns stuff, read Green Lantern Core, and then read, the Sinestro Core War, everything leading up after that to Blackest Night. And then after that, read the Brightest, look up a YouTube video explaining what happened in Brightest Day, and then go pick up the New 52 stuff, and you could read all the way till Simon Baz and Jeff Johns eventually ends his run.
Yeah, just Wikipedia Brightest Day. Just get the basic idea of here's Swamp Thing. Oh, Swamp Thing is the ruler of the green. Here's Dead Man eating a hamburger because eating hamburgers makes him happy.
I remember that. All right, man. Hey, but I got to get out of here. We're about to go do lunch. So,
all right, man. Well, have a good lunch. We're out of here. One last time, everybody. One last big shout out to the one and only In Stock Trades, our number one spot for all of our Omnibus collected editions, hardcovers, graphic novels, collected editions in general. That's our number one spot to go to. They've been our sponsor for years and years and years. We've been there. We've been customers of theirs since even before we started the show. We have great experiences with them every single time. So instocktrades.com. Best prices there are. Check out, join us tomorrow on Monday as you go through the previews list of what's coming out this week. So you can check out In Stock Trades on that Tuesday and get your books ahead of time. Stop paying cover price. Stop paying for full price or even more for these books. Hit up instocktrades.com where you get the best prices, best packaging. They sponsor the show. They also give us a $50 gift card to give out once a month. So join us for that. That's all thanks to InStockTrades.com, our #1 spot for all of our collected edition needs. All right, Lou. So let's bounce out of here. Where can people find you real quick, bro?
You can find me at Comics Guide 101 on Twitter and Comics Guide 101 on YouTube, where you can see my old archive of videos on there.
And you guys can find me on Instagram, Matrix Gabe. Again, if you guys are interested in buying omnibuses and stuff, hit me up. I'll sell most of this stuff. So anyways, and then you can also find me on Whatnot, on the Whatnot app under Ninja Comics. So thanks again, everybody out there. We appreciate you guys showing up and supporting us. Again, Patreon, hit up our Patreon where you can join us once a month for Omnibros After Dark, where me and Lou just get really extreme and just talk all the craziness that we really can't say and mention and bring up here. You can be a part of that show for $5 a month. And there's also a tip jar where you can throw in whatever kind of tip amount you want to give us, and that will give you access to not only the video but the audio of these Campfire Omnibros After Dark episodes. So hit up the Patreons in our link below, and we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Bye, everybody.